First of all, you see we've trying to change the name of our community listening sessions. We think that because of the way that distance learning has evolved and our approach to trying to communicate with parents, we thought maybe it was more appropriate to rename it our Family Forum. So that's why you're going to see a little different name there. I think we're kind of evolving and trying to progress with the way that things are advancing with the COVID virus and the way that we're providing instruction for our students. So the metrics were updated last Friday by the governor. Pretty drastic update in the way that the metrics will define when we can get kids back in our buildings. It does loosen up the metrics. It means we will get kids back in the building sooner than expected. Complete different calculation and a little more local authority. But however, we are still bound by the metrics. And if you're following the data, the most unfortunate piece of this process is that we live in Marion County, which is the highest rate of cases in the whole state. And it's, we're continuing to set records. As you see again today, I think we broke 800 cases per day. I understand that everyone has a little different perspective on the accuracy and the validity of the way that our state measures the cases and the positivity rates. But unfortunately, as a school district, we are bound by those metrics. That's the only way we can operate, is by following the metrics and the guidance that the state gives us. So, and I appreciate, we're getting a lot of feedback from parents and in emails and phone calls. And one common theme that we're constantly hearing is, what is the school district doing to support our kids? Why is the district not advocating for our kids to get back in the buildings? And I just want to share that our school board is not taking the stance that they're going to pursue a lawsuit against the governor or the state of Oregon to get a change to where we can get our kids back in the building. They're not going to take that stance. They're taking a different approach. And but I want you to know that all four administrators in our district and myself, we belong to professional organizations and serve on committees at the regional and state level. And behind the scenes, we are actively advocating for getting back into the building, especially for small schools. So just because you're not reading about it in the headlines doesn't mean that we're not doing everything we can to be able to get our kids back face to face just as soon as possible. So with that, we'll move forward. So the new metrics framework changes the week time frame for calculating the metrics. It used to be the average of 3 weeks. Now the new metrics are the addition of the two past weeks, so the past 14 days. The positivity rate at the state level has been removed, but it still is there for the county level. There are incrementally increases that provide access for in-person instruction beginning at the elementary level. Previously, there was what they called an exception that would allow K through 3 to be able to come back into the building earlier than the rest of the district. I believe it was 30,000 or 30 cases per 100,000 in the past 3 weeks. We're going to show you here shortly that has completely changed. It does maintain the use of some exemptions, including a hold harmless clause. That does not impact our district because those are districts who were already providing in-person instruction prior to the changes that happened. It extends the implementation windows and advises the use of an equity decision tool, which we have already been using, and limited in-person instruction. Limited in-person instruction changes cohort size from 10 to 20, and it removes the cap of 250 student limit per week. Like I mentioned, the calculation is no longer a 3 week calculation, 3 week period, but it's a 2 week period. And again, Previous calculations have been 3 weeks with an average count, and now it is 2 weeks with an addition. So if you have 50 cases per 100,000 in the first week and 60 cases per 100,000 the second week, that means your count is going to be 130. And so as we move forward, I'll show you what that looks like. This is the new scale for when districts can return to in-person or on-site. The way this works is from the right would be the most restrictive when you're limited to distance learning only over here in the purple column on the right. And then as you move to the left, you transition, which is a variation of distance learning and moving towards on-site or hybrid. And then the yellow is a hybrid and distance learning combination. And then once you get to the green column over here, that's when you're back in person with everybody on site in some hybrid model. As far as the rows go, our district would watch this top row here. The second row is for small counties. A small county or small schools that fall in those counties would be schools that are 75 students or less, so very small schools. So we fall in this range here at the top on this first row. Our counts last week were 224. So we're right now we're in the max up here, max of the limit, and it's gone up. It went up from 177 to 224 in the last calculation. So, and I believe today was our highest rate in Oregon. So I would expect that to continue to go up. This is a calculation as of last Friday. So looking at through the end of October, again, this is a state count. So you can see that those counts at the state level are continuing to go up as well. Again, the state test positivity rate no longer counts. It only counts at the county level. So here's the Marion County metrics for the last 3 periods. They went back and calculated backwards. Because of the fires and smoke, they went retroactive back through to the month of September to make these calculations. So that's why you're seeing them go backwards, even though it was only, the metrics were only effective as of last Friday. So again, this number right here, we need that number to get going in the other direction. And you can see it's increasing dramatically each week. Here are the county metrics for that colored slide you seen earlier. The county metrics for on-site and distance learning. We'd have to be a case rate of less than 50 cases per 100,000 in 2 weeks, and a county positivity rate of less than 5%. This would allow kids to be in hybrid or being back in the building. And this is for working at getting kids in that hybrid, between hybrid and comprehensive distance learning, between 50 and 100 cases per 100,000, and between 5% and 8% for test positivity rates. So limited in person is what we've been working to get enforced in our district. We have started on a small scale. We have a lot of limitations to be able to provide this. As a reminder, this instruction has to be in addition to the regular instruction that students receive. And our district has a list of priorities as to how we identify students that would qualify for limited in person. But one of the other limitations is our teachers teach for the majority of the day. And so we don't have staff that can break away and provide this additional instruction for students throughout the day. There's very limited time periods and a very limited number of staff. So each building is having to be very creative, and they're going through assessments in their buildings, and they're calling parents, and they're in the process of identifying students and how they can serve them in this manner. You can have a maximum of 20 students in a cohort at any given time. And a cohort means any contact that those students come in, any other students that or staff that those students come in contact with while they're in their building. Staff members, even in multiple roles, cannot interact with more than 3 cohorts at any given time. And the new guidance removes the 250 student limit, as I mentioned before. And the link to the new Ready School Safe Learners guidance is here, and it's also available on our website. Here, this just demonstrates that the previous guidance only allowed for cohorts of a maximum of 10 for limited in-person instruction, and now it's expanded to 20. Even though we know that we probably won't be able to reach 20 with any given cohort in our district, just because of the limited number of staff that would be available for those groups. So limited instruction in person in our district, we started 2 weeks ago with individual evaluations and assessments in each building. We actually set up individual rooms in each of our 3 buildings that are set up to be safe, and distancing is followed, of course, but very specific for evaluations and assessments. These are things that just cannot be done remotely, so we started that about 2 weeks ago. Last week, we started with students at St. Mary's, bringing a small group of students in each day that were not able to access education for one or more reasons from their home. Starting next week, we will be bringing in our community transition students at Kennedy High School for the program that we have. That is in a consortium with Cascade School District and Silver Falls School District. And then all 3 buildings continue to contact parents, and they're planning for additional students to have access to limited in-person. And there's multiple different approaches, but the buildings are assessing those with their staff and contacting parents to make arrangements. Parents are pushing, and we're pushing to get kids in a building as quick as possible. Thought it was important to make sure that parents understand. We just added at the middle school, we were able to add 2 more days of synchronous instruction, and so now at all 3 buildings we have synchronous instruction 4 days a week: Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And of course, our Wednesdays are our staff development PLC times, and our trainings. And all of our staff meetings, they all occur on Wednesday because they're not able to occur on those other days while synchronous instruction is occurring. So we're currently in CDL, or comprehensive distance learning, in our buildings, and we're providing that 4 days a week, like I mentioned: Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We have asynchronous instruction, or that instruction where it's not a live teacher, happens 1 day a week, and that's on Wednesdays currently. So all asynchronous instruction is currently occurring on Wednesdays through CDL. When we do get to the point where we're able to bring kids back into our buildings, the synchronous instruction is going to decrease from 4 days a week to 2 days a week. And the reason for that is the cohorting and the limited space, or the having to follow the distancing and spacing for students. So if we have a class of 30 kids, we're not going to be able to get all 30 kids back in a classroom at the same time. We're going to have to split them in half, and have half of those kids come on Monday, half of those kids come on Tuesday. So there will be situations where we have a small class or a small grade level that we may be able to bring those kids back 4 days a week, but we won't know that until we know exactly what the count is and when we're going to be able to do that. We are shooting for our elementary students, K2 or K3, to be able to come back every day when we get back into hybrid. We're still hopeful that we can get that done. But we know that in grades 7 through 12, it will still only be synchronous 2 days a week, and asynchronous for 2 days a week, or actually asynchronous for 3 days a week because of Wednesdays once we come back to hybrid. And we increased the date that we expect that to be from November 9th to February 15th. But now that we're seeing the case rates skyrocket the way they are, it's really hard to tell. We just don't know what that's going to mean. Talk about one thing they did a really good job of in this new update with the guidance is helping districts identify symptoms and clarify, when staff or students should be excluded or removed from the school due to illness, or they shouldn't be attending, and how to react in all the different, many different situations that we're going to be dealt with. We know that we'll have illness. Everybody's going to have illness at some level, and whether it's someone in the home or someone that staff or student had contact with, whether they have the symptoms or they're asymptomatic. There are a lot of different scenarios that we have samples here for you to look at on our website. But the newly defined exposure for an individual is one who has had close contact less than 6 feet for longer than 15 cumulative minutes in a day with a person who has had or who has been diagnosed with the COVID-19. So when they go back and start if we have a case and they start doing contact tracing, our local health authorities do the contact tracing, they're going to determine whether or not an individual had 15 cumulative minutes of contact in one day with the person who tested positive to determine whether or not they have to be quarantined or excluded from the site. We also have this tool that I believe you've all seen, but just a reminder that we do have a tool that can help you as a parent determine whether or not your child should come to school. This is available on our website. 3 questions to determine if you should keep your child at home or if they're going to be safe to send when it comes time to be able to send them to school, whether it's for limited in person or it's for hybrid instruction on site. This is just a screenshot of a sample of the types of scenarios. There are actually 11 pages that includes 7 different scenarios of contact that a staff member or a student could experience. And it walks you through how that student would be, or parent, or excuse me, the student or staff member would be managed as far as when they can come back to school. And again, these are all on our website. And that's the end of our presentation. Jared, do we have any questions that we could address?
None at this time.
It's a process that it continues to change, and our buildings continue to make adjustments as the changes happen. And with our instruction, we're learning every day. Our teachers are learning every day. And I think our teachers are doing a really good job at what they do. And they continue to learn from the experiences they get each day. We know that our enrollment has certainly gone up. Most districts, I think the lowest we were at is about 84% for attendance. And I believe it's continuing to go up. And adding the additional 2 days at the middle school has made a significant impact on attendance. Being able to engage with students daily, we know is a positive for getting kids engaged and connected with their teachers. But with that, I'd be happy to answer a couple questions if there's anything that we need to help clarify, or we can turn you loose this evening and you can access resources on our website.
There was a quick question just on kind of upcoming home visits. And so this might be a good opportunity for each building administrator just to explain what those might look like. And so Jasmine, would you like to start, and then I'll follow with Dale?
Absolutely. So yes, we're very excited to start our home visits, or virtual home visits, next Tuesday. Families should have already or will be tomorrow sent the invitation to attend. And you should receive a Zoom invitation. So that will happen over Zoom, or you can call in through that number as that's linked there as well. And you'll be able to talk with your child's teacher, and those families that need interpretation, the interpreters will be joining the conference as well.
Thank you. Yeah, the middle school is going to take a very similar approach, scheduling conferences that need interpretation. So we're making sure we do that first. And then today or tomorrow, you should be receiving an email invitation from your student's advisory teacher. And that will give you an opportunity to sign up for a virtual home visit with their advisory teacher. And during that virtual home visit, if you would like to follow up with any other teachers, they're going to go ahead and document that, and those teachers are going to follow up with you within a week. And so that is what it's going to look like at the middle school.
Okay, thanks, Jared. It's going to be much the same at the high school. Your student was, let me back up for a second. During their advisory class today, they were walked through what the advisory meeting will look like next Tuesday. So parents will be meeting with advisory teachers much like they are down at the middle school. We are using a different application, if you will, or a website to actually schedule those meetings. And this is what we are explicitly teaching our kids today in the advisory. It's called Calendly, C-A-L-E-N-D-L-Y. And so there is a link that you'll get from your advisory teacher. It's also posted on the advisory teacher's Google Classroom. That all you have to do is click on that link, and then you just pick a time during that Tuesday evening, afternoon, to meet with your advisory teacher, your student's advisory teacher. There will also be some time during that conversation that if you recognize that your son or daughter is struggling in some classes, you can actually also schedule a time during that time with the advisory teacher for the next week, the next virtual home visit, which is on the following Tuesday on the 17th. So you can schedule that meeting as well. They'll provide a link to do that. We're kind of going a little high tech, so bear with us a little bit as we learn new things that make things a little bit easier for you. Sherry and Brianne at the high school put together a mailing yesterday that has the students' progress report as of yesterday or the day before when they printed them. Now, basically what that is, it's a snapshot of your students' grades on the day that was printed. Now, for us at the high school, we're in a quarter system, which means at the end of the quarter, that's actually the end of a semester. So those are semester grades, which actually go on to the transcript. So I would encourage folks to, when they're meeting with their advisory teacher on Tuesday, to get the links from those other teachers where your student might be struggling, so you can partner up with them and work through this so we can get your son and daughter to a passing grade. But yeah, we're doing much the same thing. It's all about reaching out and making sure that our kids have the support that they need and that we're partnering with you all. So it's a good thing.
Thanks, Del. We had another question just around the hybrid instruction. The question was, why would 7th through 12th grade students not be able to Zoom in while other students are live at school? And so this might be in reference to that 4-day synchronous model versus the hybrid model, and kind of those options that we might have available. Did anybody, either Dale or Troy, like to address that?
I'm happy to address it and Troy, if you want to follow up on that. The reason why is exactly what Troy had said earlier. It's the cohorting model. As an example, right now we have about 180 students that are enrolled at JFK, and we can't have all 180 students in the building at the same time due to occupancy limitations for our classrooms. And so what that means is we actually have to create 2 cohorts to be able to get our kids into the building and get them instruction. So what that means, as an example, just an example, maybe it is our freshman and sophomore group is 1 cohort, and then we'll call that cohort A, and they go to school synchronously on Mondays and Thursdays, okay? And then our juniors and seniors would be cohort B. And so they would go to school on Tuesdays and Fridays. Well, while teachers are teaching on Mondays and Tuesdays, there is nobody to be able to teach those kids that are asynchronously, in other words, that cohort B, on those asynchronous days, if that makes sense. The staffing just doesn't allow us to, and it's not just us. It's schools throughout the entire state. When we have to go into a cohorting model like that, you would almost nearly have to double the staffing that you have in order to be able to do work like that. So that's the limitation of the hybrid model. Whereas with the CDL model, even though it's strictly online learning, they're able to meet with their teachers 4 days a week. So there's some gives and takes on both of those. Troy, I don't know if you want to follow up with anything else on that.
Yeah, I'm thinking that maybe part of that question was also, are we planning or will it be possible that the kids who are asynchronous, will they be able to access the instruction that's being provided for the synchronous students on the same day? And I think that's certainly possible. I think that's going to have to do with the technology capabilities of the individual teacher. And it's also going to be determined by how's that teacher teaching and what's the topic. If a teacher is actively moving around the classroom and dealing with a lot of individuals, that's going to be much more difficult to stream or to record. But if it's I won't pick on math teachers, but if it's a math teacher and they're going to be at the whiteboard for the most of the lesson, and that can be recorded or live streamed for those students who are not present at that time, I think that's a possibility. But I think the building principals are going to be working with their teachers as we get closer to hybrid to determine if that's possible, and two, do we have staff that are trained to do it, or will we be able to train them to be able to do that? And then three is there's also some level of confidentiality that we need to adhere to around FERPA and whatnot, so that we make sure that the way that those lessons would be recorded and shared would be appropriate.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. Between student confidentiality and privacy, in addition to some of the technology obstacles, it could make it a little bit more challenging given the teacher moving about the classroom versus being right in front of a camera. And so, while definitely possible, we may look to get creative and to see what that might look like, especially at the secondary level.
Yeah. Any other questions, Jared?
Just got another one. Under the new metrics, is the limited in-person instruction still limited to 2 hours per day?
Yes, that is correct. Yep. And that's, it's probably all that we would be able to get a staff member available for anyhow. I think Dale's planning for 90 minutes at the high school per session, because the majority of those sessions are going to have to be at the end of the day. So 2 to 3:30 or roughly in that range. So because that's after the teachers have provided synchronous instruction, or when someone else would be available.
Troy, if I may add to that too, that's exactly right. Our teachers are teaching up to 1:55 every day, and then they have to be provided a prep per their contract. And so they're done with their prep, and which means there's no student contact time during that time. We can't, per their contract, can't say you have to be with students during that time. So what we plan to do is from about 2 o'clock until 3:30, Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, bringing in a cohort of students that our teachers and our staff have prioritized that need that extra support. Whether it be because they don't have any connectivity at home, or really bad connectivity at home, or attendance is really poor, things like that. But we're also looking at maybe Wednesday afternoons too, when our teachers and our staff are available for maybe some applied learning things that we can do, where we can bring kids into the shop and have them do some work in the shop with Ms. Shull, or maybe it's even working with our science teachers that maybe do some hands-on learning, dissections, things like that. And then possibly also bringing in some clubs, But then we have to realize too that we have to stay in a cohort model, and our teachers can only be a part of 3 cohorts. So that's the big thing that keeps us, I guess maybe keeps me awake at night, is I want to bring all these kids in. I want to get the leadership kids in and kids who need different supports, and getting kids in to do some testing. But at the end of the day, our teachers can only be in touch with 3 different cohorts. So as you can imagine, that causes issues on itself.
Yeah. So I guess in closing, I just want to reiterate the fact that, we are advocating for our kids. We want our kids in front of us as soon as possible. That's why our teachers are teachers. They like working with kids, and they're happy to work with them, from a distance online, but they all prefer that they be in their classrooms. And we want that to happen as soon as possible. At the same time, we do have guidance to follow. We have metrics to follow and safety procedures. We want to make sure that everybody's safe, and that's staffs and students. So we will continue to advocate and plan and adjust as we need to adjust as the state changes things, and as we are able to progress as a district as well. So with that, we appreciate you as parents. I know that it's hard. I know that, 2 parents working and no child care or limited child care, having to, not only provide child care, but also provide guidance and helping kids learn from home. It's not easy. We understand that. And we want to be able to help you in any way we can. We'll be sending out another survey to get some more feedback from you, similar to what we've done in the past, that will help us maybe narrow down more specifically what your current needs are, how we can provide additional training or resources for you and your kids at home. And we appreciate you filling that out and getting that back to us. We listen, and we do make adjustments according to your feedback. So with that, we appreciate it. Thank you all. Have a good evening, and we will see you all again soon.